So how do you blur crashing waves in bright sunlight? You use a neutral density filter. So with a neutral density filter, also called an ND filter, what we do is we get an ability to drop the amount of light coming into the camera. So on a bright sunny day like this, the best I can do, f22, the smallest aperture hole coming in, very little light from that. ISO on that camera could go down to 50. So there's maximum desensitization of that camera going on, but the bright light means I'm getting 1/60th of a second. Now that's not a very nice looking shot. You know, it's rocks and it's the shore, all that kind of stuff. But there's no drama really going on inside that shot. Now here's the thing. If I can drop the amount of light coming in, and normally that would be if the clouds go be in front of the sun because behind the clouds, or it's later in the day, or it's nighttime, sure. But in that moment, I can do nothing else with the camera except if I use a neutral density filter. So basically, let me show you what goes on here. I'm going to drop this neutral density filter. Basically, I can only get 1.6, 2 seconds at f22. This camera has 200 ISO at the lowest, so that's the best I can do. But by simply dropping down the neutral density filter, I can make that shutter speed 8 seconds. Now that's a massive difference in terms of what the ability of the shot to be, particularly when there's movement. I've mentioned before, when there's movement in a shot, the shutter speed matters. You either want to freeze it or you want to blur it. So how does that actually work? Well, basically neutral density filters are just thick pieces of glass or plastic, and the darker they are, the less light they let through. So they're generally called 1-stop ND, neutral density, 2-stop, 3-stop. You buy them in packs, very, very cheap to get on the internet. And you have a filter in front, filter holder in front of the camera. These are standard sizes. And then what you do is you have a ring which will hold it. So basically, depending on the lens you have, that hole might be bigger or smaller. So the outer size is the same. The inner side changes based on what it is that your lens is. And that's easy to find out because every lens actually has that detail on it. It'll say 48 or 52 or 58 or something like that. So if we will look at now what happens when we do these. So here's our standard shot on a bright sunny day. That's the slowest I can make it. 0.3 seconds. There's a bit of a difference now. So I just put on 1-stop. It basically doubles, halves the amount of light, in fact, coming in. So it basically doubles the shutter speed. And here I am at 5 seconds. So the very same scene, if I can get it down to that, now that water's becoming ghostly. Now I have 20 seconds. And now I have 30 seconds. So it is possible to go even further by stacking them. And that's what this filter will actually, the filter holder will allow. So I can actually have a number of them in there. So I can add a 2 plus a 3 to make a 5, which is how I got this shot. So I can go from this, which is bleh, and as you know, that's our technical word for shots that are just not that interesting. And I can go all the way down to 30 seconds to where I can get this. It's almost impossible to think of it as being the same scene the same day, but they're taken basically seconds apart. So how do you blur crashing waves in bright sunlight? You use a neutral density filter. So as always, if you have any questions, just pop them in the comments.